Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. India and Canada strengthen ties as Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds talks with Canadian counterpart Mark Carney in New Delhi. Focus on critical minerals, nuclear energy and a comprehensive trade pact. Iran conflict on brink of spillover across West Asian region. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says no US troops in Iran yet, but US ready to go as far as need be. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds telephonic conversation with King of Bahrain and Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Thanks the leaders for ensuring well-being of Indian community during ongoing conflict. And oil surges over 8%, as does gas. Gold rises by 2%. Global markets bleed with India's BSE Sensex felting nearly 1,000 points lower. Nifty below 24,900. Dollar meanwhile strengthens against most currencies. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit to India represented a pivotal diplomatic reset for bilateral ties between the two countries. Spanning Mumbai and New Delhi, it emphasized economic collaboration and strategic partnership renewal. Our next report gets us more.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney wrapped up his first official four-day visit to India, holding key talks in New Delhi with Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Hyderabad House.
भारत डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी के माध्यम से सभी विवादों का समाधान का समर्थन करता है। इस क्षेत्र में मौजूद सभी भारतीय नागरिकों की सुरक्षा के लिए हम सभी देशों के साथ मिलकर काम करते रहेंगे।
In New Delhi, he met External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar and held delegation-level talks to review progress in trade, energy, critical minerals, agriculture, education, innovation, and people-to-people ties.
The most ambitious projects in clean energy, in the digital economy, in biofuels, in the next generation of artificial intelligence talent are all here in India. Prime Minister, Canada shares such ambition and your sense of purpose.
The trip focused on advancing the India-Canada strategic partnership through economic diplomacy, launching negotiations for a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, and targeting doubled bilateral trade to $50 billion by 2030. Cooperation in clean energy, critical minerals, AI, and defense were also on the agenda. The two sides pragmatically engaged with business forums and signed MOUs to prioritize shared interests like uranium deal and supply chain resilience. The visit signals reset after 2023 diplomatic tensions and hope to foster long-term economic relationship and build partnerships amid global fractures. Bureau Report, DD India.
Another India-Canada CEOs Forum, Richa Hukumchand, founder and CEO of Pramatra Space, highlighted that this heralds a new era amid global trade uncertainties. She added that by forging partnerships with nations, especially Canada, India can build a sustainable economy and innovative future for the nations.
This is the starting of the new era where, given the kind of trade uncertainties that are happening globally, building resilience with building partnerships with countries and especially with Canada will build a sustainable economic and an innovative future for our country.
And Indra Kumar, Chairman and Managing Director of Avanti Feeds Limited at the India-Canada CEOs Forum, said cooperation between the two countries progressing exceptionally well, adding that joint technological advancements will propel us far and this will greatly benefit the food processing sector.
Mr. has said very well, the cooperation between India and Canada has really going off well, and the cooperation between the technology what Canada has and what the capacities what India have together will go a long way, and for the food processing sector and food safety of the people, it would help a lot.
And Goldie Haidar, CEO and President of the Business Council of Canada at the India-Canada CEOs Forum, emphasized that he strongly believes in what Prime Minister Modi said when he stated at the end of the day, the role of the governance is to build policy infrastructure and trade-enabling infrastructure from policy perspective.
It shows alignment, but I also believe very strongly in what Prime Minister Modi said. At the end of the day, the role of governments is to build the policy infrastructure, the trade-enabling infrastructure from a policy perspective. But ultimately, it is businesses that need to get across that bridge. And we're excited about what's going on, both here in India, but also in Canada, where we certainly would welcome Indian capital.
And more CEOs' reactions coming in. Anuj Kapuria, founder and CEO of High-Tech Robotic Systems, now Novus High-Tech, stated that India and Canada are natural partners in trade and innovation. Each nation possesses resources, technologies and capacities that other urgently requires, creating a strong foundation for mutually beneficial cooperation. Both Prime Ministers demonstrated considerable enthusiasm and clear commitment to advancing this partnership with remarkable speed and agility.
India and Canada are natural partners. They have things that we need and we have things that they need. So I think both Prime Ministers showed a lot of willingness to move forward with speed and agility and really have actions on the ground speak for themselves. So it was a great, I think, opportunity to meet and exchange views. And they are looking forward for the CEOs to take the action forward, which is quite unique and I think will really help.
And Rajat Verma, CEO of India-Canada CEO Forum, expressed strong optimism about bilateral trade relationship, declaring that they are optimistic about trade partnership and that this is the beginning of India-Canada Partnership 2.0.
I think we are very optimistic about the trade partnership. The two Prime Ministers set the tone very well. I think this is the beginning of India-Canada 2.0. We hope to get this partnership affected by industry. The government can set the framework, the policy, but it's up to industry to go and actually do some real strategic partnership.
And Avinash Chandrapal, a co-founder and CEO of D-Town Robotics Private Limited, highlighted the promising collaboration in the AI ecosystem between India and Canada. He stated there is good partnership between India and Canada at the AI ecosystem, so we are looking forward to an even stronger ties.
We find some good partnership with India and Canada AI ecosystem. So we are looking forward to partnership and having the MOUs with Canadian companies.
Preeti Bajaj, CEO and Managing Director of Luminous Power Technologies, speaking at the India-Canada CEO Forum, identified clean energy tech, particularly battery energy storage systems, as a key focus area. She emphasized opportunities in supply chain development, product formulation, technology innovation and novel financial business models. She summed up in 3 Ps: partnership, platform and performance.
The focus areas emerged to be clean energy tech and specifically looking at what's possible in battery energy storage systems from supply chain standpoint as well as product formulation and technology innovation standpoint, including innovative financial business models was one of the key areas we discussed today. If I had to sum up today as a whole, taking a holistic view, I would say that there are 3 Ps that sum it up. One is partnership, which is establishing the forum for strategic partnership. Second is platform, the platform for bringing businesses together with, I guess, the strategic intent of the two governments, but also making sure that collaborations happen. And finally, it's really about performance. The focus on measurable results of this particular comprehensive agreement in time as well as actual in the impact of economy is something we all look forward to.
And you have the final reaction. Joby John, founder and CEO of TechVersant Infotech, a leading global software and development IT consulting firm, spoke at the India-Canada CEO Forum, noted that recent months have seen significant improvement in bilateral relations with strong governmental support. He expressed firm belief that India and Canada can become excellent partners in IT, AI and quantum technologies.
Last few months have been a great, the relationship is getting better and the governments are supporting. Definitely we expect a big improvement in the sales and definitely India and Canada can be a very good partners in the IT and maybe the AI and quantum technologies and all.
And take forward our conversation on India-Canada ties. Joining me is Ambassador Mohan Kumar, former senior diplomat. Good evening and welcome, Ambassador Kumar. We just heard a number of CEOs expressing great optimism about India-Canada relations. To begin with, what is your read on the outcome of India-Canada talks today? I mean, would it be fair to call it a reset of ties? One of the CEO calls it India-Canada Partnership 2.0.
Thank you very much for having me. No, I completely agree with that sentiment. I was going to call it a remarkable turnaround in the relationship. After all, you cannot overlook the fact that a couple of years ago, the relationship was mired in deep disagreement and the relationship itself seemed to be in complete disarray. So to today talk of a substantive roadmap is what the two leaders have agreed. So it's almost incredible that in a matter of 2 to 3 years, and the last 1 year in particular, ever since the assumption of office by Prime Minister Mark Carney, it's been an amazing 1 year for India and Canada, when I think there have been so many visits back and forth, and there have been so many agreements and MOUs signed in this visit. So this is nothing short of spectacular. What the two leaders have done is essentially charted out a pathway for the future up until 2030. And that has not been just confined to the usual areas, which is people-to-people ties, education, and so on, but some new areas. And that is what I will talk about maybe a little later, but for now, I will just say that the relationship for sure has been taken to the next level.
Ambassador Kumar, let's talk about this turnaround. If I were to quote the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, he says that more talks and engagement have happened in the past 1 year than they've happened in the past couple of decades. Now, what led to this turnaround? How have the two leaders been able to address the differences, the concerns, especially concerns that India has had related to anti-India extremist elements finding safe haven in Canada?
No, that's a very good question, and I can only put myself in the shoes of the two leaders. From Canada's perspective, I think it's very clear. They have had some turbulence in the relationship with the United States, and Canada, as a middle power, I think, has been saying very frankly and openly that they will have relationship with as many powers in the world as possible. So it's very clear to me that they are de-risking from the United States, as it were. And that seems very obvious to me. Mark Carney's speech at the Davos Economic Forum was noticed by everybody, and he made the point that as a middle power, if you're not on the table, you are on the menu. So Canada's motivation seems very clear. From India's perspective, I would say two things. One thing is that Indian Prime Minister and our government deserves a lot of credit. They grabbed the opportunity when there was a change of leadership in Canada from Justin Trudeau to Mark Carney. And I think there were feelers sent out by Delhi, and the fact that the Prime Minister was invited and he went to the G7 meeting was, I thought, a very good gesture, which was appreciated by the Canadians. So we really took advantage of the change of leadership in Canada. The second thing we have done is to create a separate track between the national security advisors of both countries, which will deal with the issues Canada raised with India. And that is the right way to do it, and not to allow that important fact or matter to affect the entire relationship. That is what the previous government did, and that was unfortunate. What the two governments have now done is to maturely say that, listen, there may be a disagreement, but there is a forum to deal with it. And the best forum would be the two national security advisors, what I call the national security track, which then looks at the issues that can be talked about, and then they can resolve it. But otherwise, to have the entire relationship being held hostage by one disagreement was actually a very foolish thing to do. I'm particularly happy, therefore, that both governments have actually changed tack. And I thought the Indian Prime Minister Modi, was very generous when he said to the Canadian delegation and the Canadian Prime Minister that he gives the full credit to Prime Minister Mark Carney in the turnaround in the relationship.
Right. If you talk about the key takeaways from today's engagements, Canada, we understand, has some of the richest deposits of critical minerals, and the uranium deal in particular for the nuclear reactors, the ecosystem is still taking shape in India. It could play a key role in sort of the energy security future that India is looking at.
Game changer. Absolute game changer, because we need reliable supplies of uranium, and this is a long-term deal. So what the two countries have done is lock in the relationship in terms of the supply of uranium, and I think it's a $1.6 billion. When you talk of dollars, I think there is a bit of confusion between Canadian dollars and US dollars, so it's a 2.6 Canadian dollar deal, if you like. The second thing is that most Indians may not know that quite a bit of the dal that they eat is actually from Canada. It's actually grown in Saskatchewan, and it comes all the way to India. And I'm particularly happy that the two leaders have talked of food security, nutritional security, which is so important for India, that Canada and India will have a Pulse Institute in India, because we really need to get this technology from Canada and try to grow more pulses ourselves. We import a lot of pulses from Canada, and Canada grows it particularly for India. So that is an area of cooperation. I would say energy security, food security, and then, of course, what has really caught my eye is that among the foundational agreements that they have signed, we've also signed an agreement on security and defense issues, where I think we are talking of security in the Indo-Pacific, maritime domain awareness, and those kind of issues need a certain comfort level between the two countries. I was particularly happy to know that Canada and India have decided to set aside past disagreements and focus on the future. This is a very, very futuristic joint statement that the two countries have agreed on. I would invite your readers to take a look at it. And this statement is substantive. It covers almost all areas. For example, it talks about battery storage and energy self-sufficiency, resilient supply chains, critical minerals, all the kind of things that are futuristic and that actually can set the relationship to a completely new pathway. So in that sense, I describe this visit as a really, really path-breaking visit for India and Canada.
And Ambassador, finally, your quick comments on the people-to-people ties as well, with the emphasis on diversity and democracy. India and Canada should have been natural partners long ago, but now that the ties are warming up, do you see a new area of engagement between the peoples? There's a lot for students as well in this visit of Prime Minister Carney.
Yes, I think what we have to accept is that you may not have the previous levels of the number of students going from India to Canada. That era is, I think, behind us. But what will happen is that there will be a recalibration from both sides, that we also want the right kind of students to go. Legal migration is what we are looking at. And therefore, there may be a recalibration on the part of both sides. But what I do want to say is that people-to-people ties will continue to be the ballast for this relationship. After all, close to 2 million Indian origin people live in Canada, and that's a very, very large number. And therefore, people-to-people ties will continue to be very important. I think it will shift to higher education. It will shift to business and professionals who may now move between the two countries. That is the kind of skill development, talent development that the joint statement talks about.
And Ambassador Mohan Kumar, thank you for joining us on the NewsHour. Moving on, tensions are escalating in West Asia as the conflict between Iran, Israel and the United States spreads across the region. Missile strikes, drone attacks and air raids have been reported from Tehran to Jerusalem and even parts of the Gulf. There are fears of a wider war and growing impact on global oil markets as well. Here's more.
As the conflict between Iran, Israel and United States continues to expand. On Monday, sirens sounded in many parts of Israel and in Jerusalem after missiles were fired from Iran. The Israeli army said it intercepted most of the incoming missiles. Israel also launched a new wave of airstrikes on Tehran. These strikes came after the killing of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iran retaliated with dozens of missile attacks. Most of them were intercepted by air defense systems. Following Khamenei's death, Iran's interim leadership met to decide the next steps. A major new front opened in the war when Hezbollah, one of Iran's key allies in West Asia, launched missiles and drones toward Israel. The group said it was acting in retaliation for Khamenei's killing. Israel responded with heavy airstrikes on the southern suburbs of Beirut, areas controlled by Hezbollah. Israel said it targeted senior militants. Lebanon's state news agency reported that at least 31 people were killed and 149 injured in the attacks. Hundreds of people have fled southern Lebanon as the conflict spreads. The violence has also spread to Gulf countries allied with Washington. In Kuwait, black smoke was seen rising near the US Embassy. Security forces, ambulances, and fire trucks rushed through the area. The US Central Command said Kuwait's air defense mistakenly shot down 3 US F-15 fighter jets during active combat. The United States described it as an apparent friendly fire incident during the conflict. There were also loud explosions reported in Dubai, Doha, and other parts of the Gulf region. In Saudi Arabia, state oil giant Saudi Aramco shut down its Ras Tanura refinery after it was hit by a drone. In the first strike reaching US allies in Europe, a drone hit Britain's Akrotiri air base in Cyprus overnight. Following this, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer allowed US to use air bases for defensive strikes against Iran. Meanwhile, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the only lasting solution in Iran is a diplomatic one.
We must work hard to de-escalate and stop the conflict spreading. In the last hours, we have witnessed numerous attacks, including a drone attack targeting the British airbase in Cyprus. We also saw a strike on the Saudi Aramco oil facility. The only lasting solution is a diplomatic one.
The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, said there is no sign that Israeli or US attacks have hit Iran's nuclear facilities.
So far, no elevation of radiation levels above the usual background levels has been detected in countries bordering Iran.
The situation remains tense as the conflict continues to widen. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
The Lebanese government on Monday banned Hezbollah's military activities after it fired on Israel in retaliation for killing of Iran's supreme leader. Hezbollah's recent attacks on Israel have further escalated tensions in the region.
The Lebanese state declared its absolute rejection, leaving no room for any ambiguity or interpretation of any military or security actions launched from the Lebanese territory outside the framework of its legitimate institution. It affirms that the decision of war and peace is exclusively in its hand, which necessitates the immediate prohibition of the Hezbollah's security and military activities as being outside the law.
Meanwhile, US Defense Secretary, in fact Secretary of War he's called now, Pete Hegseth said on Monday that military operation against Iran would not lead to an endless war, though he and other leaders acknowledged the operation would take time. Hegseth said the aim was to destroy Tehran's missiles, navy and other security infrastructure and deny Iran a nuclear weapon.
This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. As the President warned, an effort of this scope will include casualties. War is hell, and always will be. A grateful nation honors the 4 Americans we have lost thus far and those injured. The absolute best of America. We will finish this on America First conditions of President Trump's choosing. Nobody else's, as it should be.
And Pete Hegseth further stated that no American troops are currently on the ground in Iran, but he kept the option open, saying America will go as far as it needs.
Are there currently any American boots on the ground in Iran?
No, but we're not going to go into the exercise of what we will or will not do. And so President Trump ensures that our enemies understand we'll go as far as we need to go to advance American interests. But we're not dumb about it. You don't have to roll 200,000 people in there and stay for 20 years.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held 2 important telephone conversations, one with the King of Bahrain and another with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, on Monday. In a post on X, Prime Minister said he had a productive conversation with King of Bahrain, His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. PM Modi also said that India condemns the attacks on Bahrain and stands in solidarity with its people in this difficult hour. PM thanked Al Khalifa for the steadfast support extended to the Indian community in Bahrain. Prime Minister Modi also held talks with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. In a post on X, Prime Minister said they discussed the evolving situation in West Asia. Prime Minister condemned the recent attacks on Saudi Arabia, calling them a violation of sovereignty and territorial integrity. Both the leaders agreed that earliest restoration of regional peace and stability is of utmost importance. Prime Minister Modi also thanked the Crown Prince for looking after the well-being of the Indian community during these difficult times. Oil and gas prices soared, stock markets slid on Monday as the widening Iran war shook the financial markets across the globe. The crisis in the Middle East comes at a precarious time for stocks, forcing investors to weigh the fallout of a potential prolonged disruption to energy supplies.
Oil prices jumped sharply over 8% as US-Israeli strikes on Iran intensified fears of a major global economic shock. Brent crude surged towards new highs, reflecting deep concern over energy supply disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point for about 20% of global oil and LNG shipments remain unstable or closed. Analysts warn that even a prolonged period of elevated crude prices could fuel higher global inflation, forcing central banks to delay interest rate cuts and tighten monetary policy to contain rising consumer costs. The impact isn't limited to oil. Natural gas benchmarks are also vulnerable, with tighter supply expected to push European and Asian energy costs significantly higher. Qatar's state-run energy firm said on Monday it had halted liquefied natural gas production following Iranian attacks on facilities at 2 of its main gas processing bases. Global equities have reacted negatively. Major indices fall as investors fled into safer assets like gold and the US dollar, while defense and energy stocks saw gains on expected demand shifts. Higher energy and transport costs ripple to the real economy. Shipping reroutes around Africa's Cape of Good Hope add weeks to delivery times and raise freight rates, while marine insurance premiums have jumped amid heightened risk. For oil importing countries, the stakes are high. A continued crude spike is set to widen trade deficits, pressurize currencies, and feed into broader inflation, squeezing households and businesses alike. For now, market remains cautious. Much will depend on how long the conflict lasts and whether key oil transit routes remain secure. Tripti Tripaঠি's report for DD India.
In other news, fighting between Pakistan and Afghanistan's Taliban military entered its 5th day on Monday Afghan officials claim to have retaliated with strikes on multiple bases in Pakistan that caused significant damage in major cities. However, there were no immediate Pakistani reports of such attacks. On social media platform X, Afghan Ministry of Defense said any further violation of airspace or acts of aggression by hostile Pakistani elements will be met with swift and decisive response. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Federal Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Atullah Tarar, said that a total of 415 Afghan militants have been killed and more than 580 others injured. Since Thursday, Tarar added that Pakistani airstrikes have effectively targeted 46 locations across Afghanistan. Still to come on DD India NewsHour. We'll talk about the widening conflict in West Asia. Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. We return to our top story of the Iran conflict, and to take forward the conversation, joining me is Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat, former senior diplomat. Ambassador Trigunayat, good evening and welcome, sir. First, what did you make of the tone and tenor of the US Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, as he seek to justify action against Iran and to the American people and the world at large?
Well, for anybody who's observing it, and I quite noted his comment that war is hell. Now I wonder why did they impose it on Iran, while they were very much close to some kind of a deal, but despite shifting goalposts, and therefore what followed thereafter, after the decapitation of the leadership, especially killing of Khamenei, who was expecting it in any case. I think that they have gone. They have really inflamed the whole region by this kind of a callous attitude. So if regime change was their agenda, it is not that easy to do so. Although he said that there are 3 reasons for which they have come in and they like to do that, whether it's nuclear, the missiles or the proxies, it is not that easy to do so. So Iran may not have the capacity to fight, but as long as it is in the fray and put into the corner, it has the capacity to inflict the damage in the region, and that's what precisely the incendiary kind of situation that we are in it. It's highly volatile and is continuing to expand, unfortunately. And I don't see any efforts being made by either side to scale it down. So what he has said basically is trying to justify the action, and also to the domestic constituency, because once the body bags start going back to the United States. Right now, they admit about 5 or 6 or whatever. The real numbers will come out much later. Then you will know that the American public opinion, and as has been already coming out, will also militate against this kind of misadventure, in my view. And so we are looking at a difficult situation for them internationally and both domestically. There are going to be problems for them. So they're just trying to justify it to their own people, to the Congress, to others, that this was a legitimate war, which it was not, in my view.
Ambassador Trigunayat, on the question of if regime change was the objective of this action, I want to quote Pete Hegseth when he says, no stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. I mean, does that statement give insight into the Trump administration's worldview in general, and also specifically the possible outcome of the Iran conflict? I mean, what is the end game that America may be looking at?
Shubhendu, I think Pete Hegseth is a spokesperson for President Trump. But you have to listen to President Trump, what he said himself. He told the people that you may rise, we will hand over the power to you. That
Yes.
means by removing this. So that's a very different thing. Now, if they want to give it a spin in a different way, that's another thing. Now, of course, the America does not go to build the nations. That's understandable. We have seen it in Afghanistan 20 years. What happened? India was the only country which was contributing to the nation building in Afghanistan. And that's why the Afghans, irrespective of Taliban having a different philosophy, have realized that. So here, nobody has that. Here, the whole purpose is, as far as the geopolitics of it is concerned, is essentially to provide the primacy for the continued superiority of the Israel, its security, and jointly that's why they have undertaken this exercise. Whether they have bitten a little more than they could chew is something that the time will only tell.
What do you see the direction in which the conflict appears to be heading? With every passing day, it appears that it is spilling beyond the territories of the adversaries, the key players of the conflict in the West Asian region.
Well, of course, it will expand because the Iranians have been preparing this for last 8 months after what happened in June last year. And it is exactly the same playbook that has been played out even this time. First time they had 6 rounds of talks, and when the talks were near the completion, suddenly goalposts were shifted, and then you have the war that time. But that time, America did not want Khomeini to be taken out, and it came in with its B-52 bombers, apparently, and finally allowed a off-ramp to Iran as well by allowing them to attack on one of their bases. But then this time, the first thing they tried to do was, because CIA and Mossad had been working according to their own admission, to take out Khamenei and the top leadership. Now, that means the regime change is very much the basic objective. And the United States, not only President Trump, but nearly all presidents have indulged and involved in this. It's a 67, 68 regime change which has taken place. And we don't know whether they'll be able to succeed in this because Iran is a different ball altogether. But how will it play out is the worst part is that everybody who watches the region, always feared that there would be any direct confrontation between Iran and Israel. Now, Israel without the United States support will not be able to take on Israel. That's also true. Without the boots on ground, it will be very difficult because we have seen what happened in Libya. They wanted to replicate the same kind of thing here. Now, the problem with Iran is that it has not only attacked the US assets as well as the Israeli assets or Israel by itself, but has also attacked the various bases in the region, in various countries that have been so far neutral or have been telling President Trump not to attack Iran because they would be in the line of fire. So precisely what it has done is, so whatever little rapprochement that has been built has been eroded completely, the trust. And therefore they feel that Iran is the biggest danger, that they always used to feel, and now more so. So it is very likely that the Gulf countries might decide to take upon themselves have some kind of a regional security architecture and even support the United States in decimating the regime to the extent possible. Although it is a very, very complicated matter because Iran may be a divided house, but at the same time is still a civilizational country where people think about their country first and their internal defenses later. So despite the external aggression, external provocation, I doubt very much that it will be easy for them to do the objective. So like everywhere else, destruction will be I think the end result.
Right, and Ambassador, we talk about India's concerns. Prime Minister Modi today connected with leaders of Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Now, India's priority would be the safety of some 10 million, 1 crore strong Indian diaspora living across different parts of West Asia. How do you evaluate the risks posed to them in this ongoing conflict?
The very first thing is if the conflict really expands and Iranians, to a great extent, become really cornered, then obviously they'll be hitting missiles here and there, irrespective. Currently, they are just doing it on military assets or the US assets in the region. But there is no, I think, denying the fact that even by accident, a missile in a major building or major area where a large number of Indians are living could be disastrous for us. So therefore, Prime Minister Modi has been trying to approach and asking everybody to de-escalate the war. The foreign minister also spoke to the foreign minister of Iran as well as Israel. Prime Minister has spoken to Prime Minister of Israel as well as UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain, and others we'll be talking to. Basically trying to ensure that Indians are safe there, because we have gone there to help those countries rebuild themselves in their own development agenda, but they get caught in the crossfire. I have myself evacuated many times the Indians stuck in situations.
I was just coming to that, Ambassador, from your own experience, how critical role do embassies also play in a juncture like this?
Well, embassies are very primary movers in this whole thing. They are the ones who relate, they are the ones who remain in touch with all the Indian citizens to the extent possible. They are the ones who advise people, and it will be really important that the ordinary people and citizens of India must listen to what our embassies and ambassadors say. And they stay indoors, they have to stay indoors. If they say that to move to some place, there is always a contingency plan that we do, but the task is indeed gigantic. I mean, it's you can imagine to take out 20, 30,000 becomes such a major deal. Now we are talking of 10 million people. But India is trying its best. India has always taken care of its citizens and brought them out of the harm's way from all conflict zones so far. So, but we hope that situation does not come to that. But the Indian government would be committed to provide all assistance to our citizens. There is no doubt about it.
On that note, Ambassador Trigunai, thank you very much for joining us on the
Thank
NewsHour. In South Sudan, the death toll from an attack by a group of unidentified men in Ruwang administrative area on Sunday has risen to 169. Violence in the country has increased in recent months as political infighting threatens a fragile 2018 peace deal. Information Minister James Monaloak Majok said the latest attack took place in Abinom in Ruwang when youth from Mayom County stormed the town and fought for more than 3 hours. Monloak added that 90 of those killed are believed to be civilians. 79 were government soldiers. He added government did not know the intention behind the attack. The violence highlights concerns, including from the United Nations, of deepening instability since the arrest of former First Vice President Riek Machar a year ago. Campaigning for Nepal's upcoming House of Representatives member election ends on Monday, with political parties carrying out outdoor rallies and door-to-door outreach on the final day. Voting is scheduled for March 5th. The 48-hour silence period has now come into effect, during which any activity that could influence voters, including campaigning, speeches, gatherings or posting materials, is prohibited. The Election Commission has warned financial transactions intended to sway voters could lead to cancellation of candidacy and disqualification for up to 6 years. The silence period is aimed at ensuring voters can decide freely, while authorities finalize arrangements for a peaceful and orderly vote. Still to come on DD India NewsHour. Indian naval sailing vessel Carney was ceremonially flagged into Mumbai harbour. 32nd Actor Awards shake up the Oscar race as Sinners takes top honours and surprise wins add fresh twist to Hollywood's award season.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colourful culture.
Hello. Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken with King Abdullah II, the King of Jordan, on the conflict underway in West Asia. Prime Minister Modi conveyed his deep concern at the evolving situation in the region and reaffirmed India's support for peace, security and well-being of the people of Jordan. Prime Minister also thanked him for taking care of the Indian community in Jordan in this difficult hour. The Indian naval sailing vessel Carney was ceremonially flagged into Mumbai harbour by Minister of State for Defence Sanjay Seth on Monday. The flag-in ceremony signified the culmination of INSV Carney's historic journey to the Sultanate of Oman and her return passage across the Arabian Sea. reaffirming India's enduring maritime heritage and centuries-old linkages between India and Oman across the Indian Ocean. INSV Container is a traditionally constructed, stitched ship built entirely using ancient Indian techniques, where wooden planks are hand-stitched together with coir rope and sealed using natural resins. The vessel represents a revival of India's rich maritime craftsmanship and reflects the nation's commitment to rediscover and preserve its Indic knowledge systems.
For me personally, this journey carries a special meaning. I was first shown the image of an Ajanta painting sail ship for reconstruction in December 2021. From that moment to tracing down the traditional artisans, working on the design with Holi innovation and model testing with IIT Madras, overseeing the construction and finally sailing on her across the open ocean, it has been an incredible journey and a privilege that I will always cherish.
The Actor Awards, formerly known as Screen Actors Guild Awards, wrapped up in Los Angeles on Sunday, celebrating the finest performances in film and television. With just a couple of weeks to go before the 98th Academy Awards, the ceremony has added fresh momentum and new uncertainty to the Oscar race. Diptanshu Kashyap gets us more.
With 2 weeks to go before the Oscars, the Actors Awards, awarded by members of the SAG-AFTRA Actors Union, have reshaped the awards race. The Guild's top honor, Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture, went to Sinners, marking the vampire thriller's first major pre-Oscars victory. Cast members including Michael B. Jordan, Wunmi Mosaku, and Delroy Lindo were in attendance as the ensemble accepted the award. In the lead acting categories, Michael B. Jordan pulled off a surprise win for Best Male Actor, defeating the season frontrunner Timothée Chalamet. Jessie Buckley continued her strong run, winning Best Female Actor for Hamnet. In supporting roles, Amy Madigan won for Weapons, while Sean Penn took the Supporting Actors Trophy for One Battle After Another. The ceremony also honored veteran actor Harrison Ford with the Life Achievement Award for his decades-long career. On the television side, the studio led the night with 3 wins, including Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Comedy Series and a posthumous honor for Catherine O'Hara. Other acting honors went to Kerry Russell for The Diplomat, Noah Weil for The Pit, and Michelle Williams for Dying for Sex. The ceremony, held in Los Angeles, was hosted once again by Kristen Bell. With momentum shifting just days before Oscars voting closes, the industry's top honors remain firmly in play. Diptanshu Kashyap for DD India.
The Phagu Holi festival was celebrated with grandeur across Nepal's mountain and hilly districts on Monday, marking the full moon day of the month of Phagun in Nepali calendar. People performed Holika Dahan rituals and welcomed spring with colors, music and dance. Holi is a public holiday in Nepal with major celebrations in Kathmandu Valley at Basantapur Darbar Square, Patan Darbar Square and Bhaktapur Darbar Square. Afternoon, crowds swell, especially among the youth playing with colors. Nepalese President Ramchandra Podel said the festival celebrates victory of virtue over vice and expressed his goodwill to the nation. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Time now for all the action from sports. Two-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu is set to miss the All-England Championship starting in Birmingham on Tuesday after being stranded in Dubai due to the conflict in West Asia. The Indian ace was scheduled to face Thailand's Sopinida Katong in the opening round, but the Dubai airspace and airport continuing to be closed. Meanwhile, India's top men's singles contender Lakshya Sen and rising youngster Ayush Shetty have reached the venue. While Lakshya has been drawn against world number 1 Shi Yuqi of China, Ayush is up against Indonesia's Alvi Farhan in the opening round. Lalit Sehrawat claimed a bronze medal on the final day of the Muhammad Malo wrestling tournament in Albania to lift India's tally to 7 medals. The Indian wrestler, who won bronze at the Under-23 Asian Championship in 2023, clinched the medal in the Greco-Roman 55 kg category in Tirana city. 23-year-old sealed his first podium finish at a United World Wrestling Ranking Series event with a 9-0 win over Kazakhstan's Arsen Juma. Sujit Kalakal was India's only gold medalist at the tournament. The next ranking series will be held in Mongolia from 4th to 7th of June. The Board of Control for Cricket in India has announced the schedule for Afghanistan team's upcoming tour of India in June this year. Afghanistan will kick off their campaign with a one-off test match followed by 3 one-day internationals. The test match will be played in New Chandigarh from 6th to 10th of June. ODI series will commence on June 14th in Dharamshala with the subsequent matches scheduled in Lucknow and Chennai. World champion D. Gukesh blundered from the position of strength to lose to Nabulak Abdusarov at the Prague International Chess Festival in Czech Republic. In the 5th round, the Indian did everything right for the major part of the middle game, seemed like cruising to an easy victory. However, the ticking of the clock had its final say as the Indian faltered in the closing stages. The day produced all decisive games in the 10-player round-robin tournament, and defending champion Arvind Chidambaram succumbed to his third defeat in 5 games. The president of Iran Soccer Federation, Mehdi Taj, said that he did not know if the national team could play the 2026 World Cup matches in the United States. Mehdi Taj said, "What is certain is that we cannot be expected to look forward to the World Cup with hope. Iran has been drawn in Group G at the World Cup and is scheduled to play in California against New Zealand on June 15th and Belgium on June 21st, before finishing the first round against Egypt in Seattle on June 26th. The United States is hosting the tournament with Canada and Mexico from June 11th to July 19th. That's all in this edition of DD India NewsHour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan this QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India NewsHour. Namaskar.